Okay, so as you've seen before, I want to tell you something about our experience with the Magnolia STK in the relaunch project for EADS.com. And my agenda for today is a little bit about us, and then I want to tell you something about where we started from, a little bit of the constellation of the project, just a little use case, case study. I want to show you our experience in the project. I'm a technical project manager. If you have questions technical-wise, I'll point to him, Sebastian Frick. He was my technical project manager in that project, so he knows all the technical details. I know the business details. And then after the whole details in the background, tell you a little bit how we approach the project, show you a little bit what we have in on the website EADS.com, and give you a little takeaways discussion. And as I said, feel free to ask whenever you have a question. So a little bit about us. We're actually a group, and Aperto Interactive is, the part in the group that deals with all the interactive things. We are full-service agencies. We also have in our group Green Current, who do brand strategic things, and Plantage Berlin. They are like a classical full-service creative agency, doing all TVs, advertising, all those things. And we at Aperto, as a full-service provider, we're around since '95, and rank top 18, or we are number 18 in the multimedia agency rankings in Germany. Approximately 8.5 million revenue, about 100 employees, going up right now. And Qualität, there's a mistake. Quality, we're actually ISO certified for our project management processes since '99, which is really deep in our culture too. A little bit about Aperto and Magnolia. Actually, we're a partner for 5 years now. We got to know each other pretty early, at an early stage, where Magnolia was pretty new on the market. And at the time, we were already doing enterprise content management systems for our clients for a pretty long time. And we realized clients do want open source. They sometimes don't have that money. And so we looked at the open source market. There's a lot in the PHP sector, but we had clients that wanted Java. They have a Java environment, and they were looking also for Java CMS solutions. So basically at the time there was OpenCMS and Magnolia, and we found that Magnolia is much more promising, and so we went into a partnership with Magnolia, and have currently, I think, 20 installations of Magnolia running, and EADS.com is one of it. And regarding the STK, we were pretty much involved in the development of that STK. So our part in the development, in the partnership with Magnolia, was developing the concept, the design, the CSS and HTML of the templating kit, and it's basically the essence of 15 years of project experience, because we realized that all clients kind of want same things: FAQ, glossary, an article page. All those things are pretty much the same. So we, even before we did this with Magnolia, started thinking we need some standardization there, because why do everything over and over again when they are the same? Concentrate on the specific use cases of a client and do the standard things more or less in a standard way and do them best way they work. So that's resulted in the STK. So a little bit about the project. We got into the project actually a little late. EADS was reviewing their website, and we're not really satisfied with where they were at. Those are some quotes from their CEO, Louis Gaulois. So as you see, they were not really satisfied with the website. And the reason why, it was a website launched in 2001. It's a bad screenshot, but I couldn't find a better one. We didn't do one before, unfortunately. It was launched in 2001 based on a enterprise content management system, WingX, developed by their partner Triplex, who did the website even back in the days when it wasn't EADS but DASA, and it got more and more stuff got put onto it, and I think the infrastructure under it wasn't enough for what they wanted to do with the website. So they already evaluated Magnolia as their CMS. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that right now. And this is where they wanted to go. They wanted to create a corporate website that helps them to describe EADS, its role, capabilities, performance, geographic, and ambitious. More or less, they wanted to have the website on a modern, up-to-date standard representing what they are, because they are a technology company doing cutting-edge technology, and they wanted to concentrate on that, show it more graphically, and have a more structured approach to their core clients and user groups. So, as I said, they already did evaluations of the CMS, and things they were looking at and what was important for them for this project were things that editors should really easily keep the EADS site up to date, which is something, as you might know, when you work with a Magnolia project, the inline editing and the extremely fast publishing process. This is something they didn't have before and was something convincing to them. They wanted versioning of documents. They wanted to have a support of accessibility standards, which the STK brings more or less out of the box. And they want seamless support of things like blocks, video, Flash, simple cross-linking, which wasn't possible before, JavaScript, and all those things, high availability and scalability. And they had, amongst other, a lot of components that were linked into the website. For example, for their human resources, the leading system is SAP that needed to be integrated and was in the old website, among a lot of other things, huge database of press releases and a form generating software where they can easily generate forms. And those things had to be integrated as well. And one very important thing for EADS is to have a platform, to have Magnolia as a platform that can be used by all their divisions. Because EADS as a group has a lot of divisions, companies all over the world, and they wanted to offer those divisions this platform to bring on their own website, because everyone is more or less doing their own things, which they still can do, but now they have an offering from EADS to go on this platform, get the support for what's there, use that, but also have the possibility to get your own partner, agency, and develop modules, enhance and update the website, and do that on that platform, which I think fits in very well with a open source community and module approach that Magnolia has. So here's some of the criteria which they had when they were looking for CMS. As I said, when we got into the project, the system was already chosen, and they already had design and concept process running. So when we got into the project, they already had a lot of wireframes, and they had some designs which were part of the briefing we got. Let me tell you a little bit of the project members, because that, among other, was a very challenging thing. In this project, we had a lot of members and stakeholders. EADS, and there the corporate, internal, and online communications were the project owner. And they had, for the whole project coordination, Capgemini, a consulting company, who did, more or less the project management for them. And then there is Triplex, which did the old website and is still doing now the hosting, the operation, and was responsible for the content migration process. And then there was LikeMind, who did the concept and design. They are in London. Triplex is in Munich, SEADS. Then there is Magnolia, of course, who provided the CMS. And us, who were responsible for the whole development of the website, setting up Magnolia with the design and concept that LikeMind created. So as you can imagine, a lot of people getting together in a big project like that, especially for a big international company like EADS.com, where you already have a lot of stakeholders, companies in different countries. And so it was very challenging to get all those people together in a project that was very challenging regarding time and the overall features that we had to implement. So yeah, the timing, one of the key things that made this challenging. When we received the briefing, so we did from the procurement, we got a standardized briefing with all the features they wanted, with the concept and design, wireframes, and based on that briefing, we were asked to do a project plan. So our original project plan, based on what they wanted, came out like this. We need roughly about 6 months. Big project, a lot of stakeholders, people to coordinate, so you have to calculate that in your project plan. There is a lot of discussion probably between all those people. So in the beginning, we knew that the concept and the design wasn't finalized, so we need a kickoff, we need a phase for concept and design. When this is final, we really start the website development. We will have a training at the end for the editors. We have a testing phase and a rollout phase in which they can do the content migration, and then we will launch in March. This was our original plan. The client, though, had a little different plan, because they wanted to go online by the end of the year. Beginning next year, the new website was supposed to be online. We still had the concept and design phase. So we had to do parallel development to the concept and design, and we had to roll out parts of the website earlier than planned in order to have the content migration, which will still take the same time, have enough time to do so. So this is what we had to do, and I want to show you a little bit how we were possible to do this in regards to the STK, but our overall approach to this to this project. So first of all, ambitious goals made possible. Say goodbye to Waterfall. We really couldn't, because what you've seen before, this project plan was more or less, okay, we need concept and design ready, and then we start coding. We couldn't do that, so it was clear from the beginning we need some iterative and agile approach to this and need to do parallel things. And then we had to decide, okay, this wasn't very clear from the beginning, and because the briefing we got was very individual wireframes. You couldn't really see an STK in there, but we said, okay, if you want this timing, the only way we can do it, we have to do it with the STK, because this will provide us a lot of things already done. We need less time to develop it. We can configure it, we can add things there, but basically if we go with an STK, we can be faster. So this was the decision which we had to make. And since the concept and design so far was not always the same as the STK, we needed to do some mappings. So what we did in the beginning, we had our information architect, our front-end architects, our technical project managers, all sitting over those wireframes and designs we got, and tried to map it to some STK sites, templates. And so then we set up a document for the client which showed them, okay, this is your wireframe. Here, for example, it's very bad to see, for the glossary. We have something in the SDK, which is a glossary. It looks like that and it works like this. Is that okay too? And so that was a very crucial document for us and the client to discuss, can we do it this way, although the wireframe might look a little different, and then we can add this feature which you have on your wireframe but we don't have in the SDK to it. So this was the first step. And then we did have some designs from LikeMind, but not all. When we decided, okay, which kind of templates will we use, which templates do we have from scratch new, because there is nothing like that in the SDK, we met with LikeMind and went through the designs in the aspects of STK use. And we decided, okay, in your designs it looks like this. With slight modifications, we can do it very easier with the STK. So this was an important step. And then in the process, as we got more and more designs from the from LikeMind, and that was approved from the client, we saw, okay, again, there are a lot of little things which are not really STK or are not very easy. Sometimes, you know, it's just this little button up there in the corner, which is, if you just like take this button there away and put it somewhere else or don't use it, it's so much more easier to implement. So what we set up a simple Word file. Companies like eads.com, they work good with Word, so we set up a Word file and put in everything we found in the designs that will be complicated to implement if we do it exactly the way that it is in the designs. And so with that document, we agreed on alternatives, which we always provided. Showed them things, okay, we have this in the SDK. We can more or less do all those 3 things you have there with this one teaser paragraph. And with this document, we made our lives so much easier in the development phase. Another thing that is very good, having the SDK prototype, the HTML prototype, what we could do, we could very fast put the design into CSS, and it's always better to discuss a design with a client in a browser instead of a Photoshop file. Because then you see, okay, you see the Photoshop, you see the design, but what happens if I do my window smaller, or if I increase the web font size, and all those little things that you cannot really simulate in a Photoshop. So since we had the prototype ready and we had the front-end developers sitting on it and putting the design into this CSS, we could very fastly show the client, okay, this is how your website would look like, and we do this little change and you will see it's not that bad. It's almost the same, it's just a little bit different. And what's very good about the SDK is you can very easily do different layouts with different columns. And that is what we have at eads.com. We don't have like one layout with like a navigation margin there and the content margin there and the site margin with a related topic there, which is very classical. We also have something with 3 content rows in the middle, 1 big going over all margins. And that's very easy with to do with the SDK. What was also special here and easy for us to do, since we had the STK and the prototype, we did a lot of redesigns. Since I told you the design wasn't ready, it's a design that had to go through the whole EADS group, a lot of stakeholders there, so we had constant changes in color, fonts, whatever. So we were always shooting at a moving target. So with the SDK, it was very easy, still having the Magnolia developers developing the templates and changing the design on and on while they were still discussing the final design without any problems for the whole timeline. And we decided, okay, we cannot roll out one final release to go live at the end. If we want to have them migrate the content up front, we have to roll out something fast. So we had our kickoff with the client on the 2nd of October, I think. and we rolled out the release. We called it 0.5 a month later, which already had 80% of the templates there were then for the launch, and that they really needed to use. So we call it the bread and butter templates, so something they really needed to do their content migration. And then the next two releases were more or less those very special templates and the fixes and changes that they wanted to have, because when they got the first release, then they see there are things that we don't like this way, we need this a little different. So with the next two releases, we were able to fix those little things and roll out the specialties and the bug fixes. And yeah, by 17th of December, we, from the development side, were ready to go live. It actually took a little longer, but that was more or less an internal approval thing. It took them pretty long then to finally approve the website. So if you say, yeah, but it wasn't, I looked at it on the 1st of January and it wasn't there, you're right. It took longer for them to approve and agree and then roll it out. It was again more a content thing then. But we were ready. And as I said, the release 0.5 was actually the release with which we trained all the editors. We had about 12 online editors from Triplex and from EADS, and then we sent an Magnolia experienced editor to Munich for a week to help them migrate and to answer all those questions, because this is what, from my experience, is it's in those big relaunch projects, it's mostly not really the technical side that's challenging, but the content side. It's always no client really understands how complicated it is then to migrate from a website that's completely different from design and from the text length and all those things to a completely new site. They first realize it when they see it that, okay, I need a different header, I need a teaser text here I didn't have before, and the picture sizes are different now, and all those things are most of the time not understood, although I always say in the beginning of a project. And that's why we thought it's very important to have someone experienced at client side to help them and understand the Magnolia, the new site. Not that much because it's complicated to handle, but to understand how do I build a pretty site that looks like the concept with this new templates and paragraphs. And some project tools, what we use and had to use here. So very important, of course, workshops with all project members. You have to meet, you have to discuss. There's nothing like personal talks. But then you need tools too. EADS.com is using a Microsoft SharePoint server for all their documents. So everything, all documents, everything there was in the project went on this SharePoint server. And internally at Aperto, we're using Confluence as a wiki, and we also do project blocks there to keep the whole team up to date, because you always have some team members who come in later, are not only the whole time on the project, and with the project block they always keep track of what's going on and find all the related information in there. And for issue management, Jira, I think everyone knows it because it's the system Magnolia is using too. Which was also, beside bug tracking, really the issue and task management system, and the system on which we agreed things with all the project members. It's much more efficient, I think, than sending emails, because then you send the emails to this person, but then it's being forwarded to this person, and you have discussion threads which no one is really integrated, and it's just a mess. So having those discussions on things that needed to be decided regarding designs or whatever, we try to put it whenever possible into Jira to keep track of when did we decide on what and what was the background of it. That was very helpful. And of course things like status reports, con calls, all those things. So if you haven't looked at it yourself, I might point out some features we have on eads.com. One maybe not very normal feature is we have a pretty complex Flash stage there which rotates. There are different Flash stories, and it has content that's being served from XML files, and but this is something more technical, since we can't just like throw it into Magnolia as usual. We have a little workaround to host and maintain all the XML and related files that those Flash have in Magnolia, and have that maintainable by content editors at eads.com. We have also in Flash recently launched their online version of their corporate print magazine. We currently have 7 languages online and currently 6 tenants, growing. So that's different divisions and different countries. For example, EADS North America, they have their completely own site. And we have integration of SAP, so you can do like quick searches and searches for jobs on the site, and get results on the site that come from SAP. We have a print to PDF feature, and we have things that you will later hear from our technical team at Aperto. This is one very complex editorial workflow and authorization process. Magnolia itself is offering a 4i workflow based on the motto, keep it simple, which I would recommend all my clients. Keep it simple. Don't do complex authorization workflows. In the end, it will never work because the person who is supposed to publish it might not be there, and then you have some content stuck in the whole process, and it can't go online because that one person isn't there. So I said, keep it simple. Anyway, it's a big organization, and they also have content contributors coming from outside, so it was important for them to have, beside a 4i workflow, also a 6i workflow and a complex system of notification. What content is being created has to be reviewed. So we did a lot of individual customizing there, which you can hear something about in the technical track later. And when we were with that, in the discussion with all the requirements they had regarding authorization and workflow, they had the requirement, I can see the versions, and I see that there is a newer version, but I can't really see what's different from that version to the other version. I just see that this was changed somehow. So they wanted to have some kind of versioning on a paragraph level, for example. What we integrated there was I think that's open source too. I don't know the name of it though, but ask the technical guys if you want to know. A diff viewer, which made it possible to compare the current version to an earlier version. And then you have, I don't know if you really see it here, you see all the paragraphs in there and marked with red. That was deleted, was there before, with green. This is currently online. So you have like graphical help to see what was changed, what was deleted. And I think it comes in pretty handy if you really want to compare what was there before, what was changed. And we have already some modules integrated, developed by another party. Here as an example, the press database. As I said, on the old system they already had a bunch of press releases, and there was an own module developed for that, which is in the platform now, not developed by us, but is using paragraphs and our CSS. So that is possible too, and I think, don't know much about other systems if they support it, but I think that's pretty individual for Magnolia. So basically, that more or less brings me to the end. I don't know my time, if I'm too fast. Go ahead and ask, because what I have now is just some takeaways from what we experience is important. it's very important to have a front-end development team which is very into web standards, is experienced in XHTML, CSS, JavaScript, knows all those things and can work with a HTML prototype to show the client, here, look, I just already integrated your design and this is how it could work. And important for a development team to work closely together, that the front-end developer and the web designer does understand the STK and how it works, what it can do, what it cannot do, to come up with quick solutions that's good for what the client wants to do, but still easy to implement. So this is something very crucial, I think, in the development in a project like this under a very tight time schedule. And in the end, just to show something, this is just to show you the relation. I just did a quick calculation in my head, more or less, with assumed 17 templates, moderate complexity and design and functionality. If we would just have to develop it from scratch, didn't have anything like an STK, we would say maybe have like about 35 days of template development in the back end, and then again front end, CSS, HTML, about like 25 or so. It's just for a relation here, but with the STK that cuts down really your development time. You have if you really stay close to the STK templates, you can, if you go with it, no changes. I think more or less no changes or no development time in the back end, only maybe a little configuration. And the only thing you would have to do adjust the CSS, and it's more a front-end developer project. Best case. You always have some individual requirements which you would have to work in, but this is really cutting down your development time. Yeah. So, questions? Yeah?
On the topic of content migration, I did some content migration to Magnolia from our previous CMS, and I created some tooling for that. I wonder if you think there would probably be room for some standard tooling, or
so you're trying to do an automated migration with scripts,
or perhaps to have some APIs that would help you to meet sort of halfway, because the coming from part, of course, you cannot standardize, but the going to part perhaps.
My project experience is that, I mean, it always depends on the kind of content. For some content that might be useful, but for most content, you will find that, yeah, you can like somehow get the content very fast into your system, but then when you look at it, you see you have some problems because special characters don't show up right, and the text is too long, and whatever you have. So you end up having everything in the system, but having to touch every single content by an editor and then change the wrong character that got broken in the migration process. And in the end, it takes a lot more time than just doing it, deciding, because it's not always with a migration, you always have to think, okay, I have to do something different. I have a new design now. I maybe have some content types which I didn't have before. So I would suggest sit down, analyze your new website. What do you want to do? What do you want to take with you? Do you have to shorten some text, get some new pictures? Because that, again, you put in all your pictures and then you realize they're much too small. They look ugly in this new design. So I'm not a big friend of automated content migration. It's a good thing maybe if you have, I have a bunch of download PDF files that need to go from here to there. Yeah, for that probably it's a good thing.
I'd like to ask you about some of the statistics from EADS, if you can provide us in terms of page hits, how many editors do they have, how many articles do they upload daily. I'm just interested to see the traffic volume that they have and their user experience in terms of the editorial team.
I do not have that much numbers because, as I said, in the whole project team, they have their own online editing team and the hosting and support is being done by another agency. So I don't have any numbers here right now. I just know that the content team at EADS is pretty small. It's, I think, like 4 or 5 people, and they are being supported by this other agency, Triplex. I'm not quite sure how much they have, but they had a bunch to do in the beginning, but they're not pushing that much new content. I mean, it's a corporate website where they inform about their company, and the strategy for it is all of the product details and all this. This is happening on the division website, so they don't do much about the new Eurocopter. That's on the Eurocopter website. So there's not that much new content currently coming up.
Thanks.
Since the mic is here, so I have a question about the plan that you said in the beginning. You mentioned that our original plan was to finish by March, for example.
Yeah.
And then they had a more, of course, just like every client, they had a more aggressive, much more aggressive plan.
Yeah.
In this case, you overlapped the concept design and the website development. However, the amount of gain in the time did not really cover for the full website development. How did you squeeze even the time of development? Because at the end of the day, you need to deliver the same features.
The decision to use the SDK and some give and take on both sides. So the client also had, like, from the original wireframes, we were discussing the wireframes and the designs and say, okay, you have that on your wireframe, but is it really that important to do it exactly this way? We have a different solution for you, which is more or less covering your use case and your requirements, but it works and looks a little different. And by this way, we had features in the SDK or had some approach to do that easier and faster, and doing it this way, we could
so
squeeze.
The original plan didn't include the SDK. It wasn't part of the original plan.
The original plan, no. The original plan was because we got the briefing, so we had to offer something that was really what they asked us. We didn't know each other before, so if you offer something, you offer what they ask for. So our original plan was, this is what we see here, this is what we will build you, and this is going to take you this long. And then we had a first meeting with them, and they said, everything is good, but your project plan is not what we would like to do, and how could you make it possible? So this is how we came up with, okay, we could, if we use the SDK and approach the way I just showed.
Yep.
And it worked out.
Yep, thank you.
I think this will be a question for your technical wingman, but I'm very interested in the diff viewer. What tool did you use, and was it hard to build?
What tool? Oh, I'm sorry. I have
the diff viewer between the
different
diff viewer? Versions.
Do you know it? What they used?
So the diff viewer actually bases upon the library DaisyDiff, which is integrated in the Daisy content management system, which is an open source project. And actually it just compares the HTML of both versions and integrates some span elements for enabling you to visualize the differences. So it's pretty easy to integrate.
Hi. In the beginning you mentioned that you have around 20 installations of Magnolia running out there. So is every customer running its own setup, or are you hosting, one big Magnolia cluster and customers come to you and say, hey, do the website for us, and you offer it like software as a service, or how do you do that?
Again, technical, but as far as we have a pretty, we developed over a time a setup and an infrastructure that works, and if that fits to the requirement of the client, we do the same kind of setup for the client. But this is always then depending on what the client needs and wants. But there is a pretty basic setup that works for most cases.
Yeah, what I meant is that you're not running Magnolia in your company, but your customer sets the server, sending there, and they buy the licenses. Is this right?
We do both. We do. We don't have we don't run server farms. But we have partners there, and we do, for other clients, hosting and support and operation as well. But we also have constellations where we just do the development, and we deliver WAR file, which
Okay.
they then deploy and install on their servers, or we even do the installing and deploying of it. There are different constellations, but in all those projects where the client is not very experienced with Magnolia, we propose infrastructure and setup of hardware and software. And this is more or less what we experienced, and we are running on systems which we run ourselves.
Okay, so each of the customers buys its own licenses.
Yeah, they buy their licenses.
Okay.
You said something about the SAP integration. Can you say how far that went? I mean, how deep was the integration? What exactly did you do?
There is a middleware that's being talked to, and the integration goes as far as searching for a job, finding a job, but then when you click applying for the job, you will be directly in the SAP software with the break of the design too.
Okay.
So it's halfway integrated. The whole process of applying for a job, all those forms and all those things, they happen directly in the SAP software. Again, pop-up window, new window, and you do it all there. So it's a partially integration of SAP there.
Cool. Next question. There was, you talked briefly about search or advanced search. Was that search only on the website, or was that search also on other sources? I mean, did you
Search? Did I do something about search?
There was
We have a...
There was one thing where it says advanced search.
I think that was one of the requirements they had in the beginning.
Okay.
But basically, we're using the built-in Lucene search. We did some modifications to it, and in regards to integrating this other module, we had to enhance the search. So there was some customization. I think the default installation is that the search is searching the website repository. We also are surfing the media repository, so everything that is in the media repository will be fine, but this is basically just a configuration and customization of the integrated Lucene. Okay. And thank you.